Welcome back to another episode of r/slash I don't work here lady. Get ready for some laughs. We have some great stories to share with you, and make sure that if you like what you hear that you comment at the end as well as subscribe, because that definitely means a lot to us. And this first story is posted by u/EPH2VV89. I don't work there, sir, and this happened 5 or 6 months ago. I started getting texts and phone calls, several per day, for some woman I have never heard of. Since I only had this number for a few months, at first I assumed the calls and texts were for someone who had the number before me and hadn't given her new number to some people. But after 4 or 5 texts, I no longer believed that, because there were suddenly a lot of calls and texts when there hadn't been any at all in the previous months. Then one day, I got another call. But this time, when I said it was a wrong number, the guy asked if I was the person who had put an ad on the internet. I said no. Knowing my number was likely in an internet ad, I Googled it, and sure enough, I found the ad with the misprint. The number was in the ad twice, but there was one difference. The exchange in one spot was 686, mine, and in the other one it was 668. But here's the part I laughed at. The ad was for an escort service. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a Bible-believing and living Christian, so there is absolutely no way I will be running an escort service. On top of that, I was going to be 58 in 2 weeks, weighing 270 pounds, and am physically fugly, so I could never make a living as an escort, even if my morals allowed it. It's hilarious. Anyway, I called the real number and explained the misprint. The woman on the phone denied that it was an escort service, likely for obvious reasons, but when I checked a few hours later, the ad was corrected. I immediately cleared my browsing data and cookies. The last thing I want is ads of a sexual nature suddenly being sent to my phone. LOL, I never received another call or text for the escort service. Now, this was definitely a case of mistaken identity for sure. I know sometimes I do get spam calls or texts, but nothing to this extent. So I'm glad this was her and not me. And this next story is posted by u/tenderguy11. Owner at printing shop confuses me for a technician. Background information. Until recently, my business was still giving out wedding videos on DVD. The DVDs were labeled with custom stickers that had to be printed for each client. These had to be imported into Photoshop, positioned correctly, etc. The guys running the printers at this particular shop just never seemed able to master this skill, and usually, as soon as they finally did, they would leave or get fired, and the process would restart. By the third time this happened, I had started teaching the printing guys how to do it, which usually meant that I just ended up doing the job myself while they watched, and as soon as they tried doing it themselves, they messed it up again. As I was a regular that had been coming there for about 8 years and seemed to be the only person that could get my orders right away, the manager and I eventually came to a mutual agreement that when I came in, I could just go use the computer in her office and set it up myself, because it would be quicker and would cost the shop less than all the stickers they were wasting from her guys doing it wrong. This was perfect for me and went well for many months. A trip that had usually taken over an hour would now take only 5 minutes. So, one day, I had just sent my order through to the printer and I was standing by the machine waiting for it to print, when the owner walked up to me and started telling me that the printer was still getting jammed all the time. Please note, the owner and I had spoken countless times before. He usually even came out to greet me when I entered the shop. I assumed he was telling me this because he feared my order might get stuck, but I was dead wrong. To his initial explanation, I had just smiled and said, "That's good to know." He exploded on me, telling me that's not good enough and asking me what I was planning on doing about it. At this point, I thought he was accusing me of having broken his printer, and I just stood there dumbstruck. My expression changed when he mentioned how much he pays me. "Wait, what?" I asked. Suddenly, the manager came running out of her office yelling, "Boss, he doesn't work here." The owner responded with, "What?" "That's OP. He comes in here every week, almost for the last 8 years. the manager said, looking super confused about how he had forgotten who I was. As she was saying that, the actual printer technician came out of the restroom. The owner looked at him, then looked at me, looked at him again. We looked absolutely nothing alike, and then suddenly grasped that I wasn't the technician. Well, he shouldn't be back here then, the owner said sheepishly as he returned to his office. The manager apologized profusely to me, and I just laughed it off. I guess she did get in a bit of trouble for our deal, though, because the next week she told me that she couldn't allow me to do my own printing anymore, and so we had to go back to the old way of her guys doing it themselves and getting it wrong on their first 5 or 6 tries. I wish to apologize to all the trees that lost their lives while these guys tried to figure out how their own programs worked. Man, I love getting a hookup, and unfortunately this hookup, even though it lasted a long time, had ended. And this next story is posted by u/devoon1xc31. Typical Karen. I just got done with shift at a convenience store that I work at to help pay for my tuition at Regent College in Vancouver. It's a spring day in mid-April of 2019, so there are a bunch of cherry blossoms that are really nice to look at. So I stopped by a local pizza parlor to get a pizza for me and my GF Jane to eat when I get back home. There's a long line as usual because this place is pretty well known for having good pizza. So I just decided to wait outside and sit on a bench because this restaurant is right across the road from a park. I sit there, scrolling through my phone. I forget what I was doing for at least half an hour until my GF asks when I'm coming home because she wants to know if we will still have time to go visit some friends afterwards. I tell her over the phone that I'm getting pizza from insert pizza parlor name here, and she's ecstatic because it's that time of the month and she's been craving for some pizza lately. So I walk into the pizza parlor and wait for another 15 to 20 minutes in line when I get to the front and the woman behind the counter, who knows me as I'm a regular, and her and Jane are close friends, says that it'll take a while due to them being flooded with orders. I understood because I worked in a popular restaurant when I was like 17, and I know how crazy it can get at times. So I nod my head, and I go back to the bench and wait for another 20 or so minutes until I go back inside. The place has calmed down a bit now, and there's only a few customers left. I go in, place my order, and I go back to the bench because the woman behind the counter, who will now be known as WBC, tells me it'll take another 15 minutes or so until my pizza's ready. I still haven't gotten back to my apartment yet, so I'm still in my work uniform from the convenience store. The place I work at is relatively chill with what you wear. You just always need to wear black pants or shorts. Conveniently, the pizza parlor also makes their employees wear black pants. It's just they need to wear a black polo shirt that has the company logo on the sleeve. Remember this for later. Another 5 or so minutes goes by, and this woman, who will now be known as Karen, comes up to me. She looks to be about 1.75 meters tall. She's wearing a jean jacket over a burgundy dress shirt with black yoga pants, and she has a typical dirty blonde shortcut that every Karen has. She stares me down for about 10 seconds before making a comically loud ahem. I look up and reply with, "Is there anything?" She cuts me off. Karen, "Yeah, I just wanted to say that insert establishment name here has done a bad job at serving me and my child," as she points to a stroller with an infant inside. Yes, an infant. I just look up, confused because I didn't understand what she meant. Karen, "And why are you sitting out here on your phone while you're supposed to be working?" she says in a snarky voice. I realize what she means, and I reply with, "I'm sorry, I don't work at establishment name." And the Karen looks at me and just out of the blue asks, "Oh, you're one of those gay freaks, aren't you?" Now, I personally have nothing against homosexuality or anything of that sort. One of my closest friends is gay, but I'm personally heterosexual. Me, "I'm sorry, what?" Karen, "Don't I'm sorry what me, mister. You've got that snarky accent that all the gays have." I'm not originally from Vancouver or even Canada. I'm from Maine, which is on the U.S. northeast coast, and I'll admit my accent does sound a little funny compared to the ones that people have in British Columbia or Vancouver. Karen, "Whatever. I just want to know what you're doing out here with you when you're supposed to be on a job right now. Speaking of which, you need to go in there right this instant to make me and my poor hungry child something to eat. To that, I reply with, number one, infants aren't supposed to be eating pizza. Two, I'm not homosexual. And three, I've already told you I do not work at establishment name. Karen, quit your lying. I know that you work at establishment name because of your uniform. Now please go in there and make me and my son something to eat, please, she says, starting to calm down a bit. I simply get up and walk across the road and the Karen follows with her stroller and a look of satisfaction on her face. I go in and WBC says almost immediately, "You're just in time. The pizza literally just came out of the oven not even 20 seconds ago." I can see her coworker cutting up the pizza and boxing it. She hands it to WBC and says hi to me. WBC hands me my pizza and says, "That'll be $12. That's probably not what the price was, I forgot. I take out my wallet and take out the purple bill, that's the $10, and a toonie, a $2 Canadian coin. But as I'm handing WBC the money, Karen grabs it real quick and says out loud, "Why is he getting pizza? Isn't he supposed to be the one making it?" She says dumbfounded. WBC replies with a polite, "No, he doesn't work here." Karen, "But the uniform. Why is he wearing the uniform then?" WBC replies with, "If he worked at establishment name, then he would be wearing the company logo on a black shirt like me and the other workers," as she points to the logo on her shirt. Karen still not getting the idea, asks to see the manager. To that, WBC smirks, does a 360 spin and says, "Hi, I'm the manager of establishment name. Is there an issue that I could help you with?" The Karen's face turns a bright red before throwing my money on the ground and stomps off and unloads her baby into her car and speeds off. WBC smirks and says, "Trust me, this isn't my first time." I go to give her the money and she simply shakes her head and says, "This one's on us," while giving me some garlic knots and marinara sauce. As I'm walking out the door, she hands me a brownie in a little presentation box and says, "Here, for Jane," and I get into my car and drive back home. Once I'm home, I tell Jane about the whole ordeal. She laughs it off, and we leave the apartment to go see some friends for the rest of the night. Oh man, this story has so many plots and elements to it. One, just like he said, why is a baby, an infant, eating pizza? Are you crazy? Two, in terms of the comment on assuming that he's gay just by the voice, that's also crazy. I grew up with someone, not grew up with someone, but I had someone that I knew in high school that voice was pretty high. And it wasn't that he was gay. It was just simply he lived with like 3 or 4 sisters and, eventually that voice came out. Another thing is in terms of taking the money out of his hand and smacking it, that would not fly with me. I don't know. He is so calm with that because if someone just slapped money out of my hand, we would have some issues right then and there. What else from this story? Just in terms of, Karen being so rude and impolite and aggressive, it's so funny that she kept on saying, "Please, please, 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 please." That kind of stuck out on me. So these have been some great stories with some plots and twists and turns. And so we appreciate your comments. Definitely share, like, and of course, subscribe for sure so you'll be notified for the videos that we will be posting in the future as well. It means a lot to us. Have yourself a great day.